Atlanta Wild, partner forward. Here we go. These teams are off. Jojo Gomez and Martinez for the Venom on the left side of your screen.
And that's going to be David McKellar and Sidney Wilson on your left for already on those thrusters.
That's right, and we have about a 2-rep deficit between the two teams right now. That is Sidney Wilson.
Sidney Wilson, she was formerly on the Tampa Bay Brigade, but she is wearing red this season for her first season with the Wild.
That's right, and it looks like the Atlanta Wild are about...
And the Venom are out of here, switching out for Denise Tam and Dylan Florentine. They are chipping away at those 8 repetitions on this third quadrant.
That's right, and as we mentioned before, increasing repetitions. 8 reps in quadrant number 3, 10 reps in quadrant number 4. RJ Hibbard on the right side of your screen, Dylan Florentine on your left. Now, Denise Tam grabbing the bar. Once again, we've got split screen for you.
Looks like the Daytona Beach Venom are in a stride right now, looking very good in their communication. So far, haven't messed up any repetitions and are looking at their partner to be in the correct hash box before they even start their element.
Yes, and something with the Daytona Venom that last season, they did not really get a chance to work together as a team. This year, a lot more opportunity to be in the same room, so you're seeing that right now with their the way they're working through this this partner forward.
Definitely. It looks like the Wild are getting their stride back, making cleaner transitions here. They're only 1 or 2 reps away from each other at this point.
That's right. Hand is up for the referee on the left side of your screen. 2 reps remaining on the right side for the Wild. Denise Tam on the bar now. Last thrusters for her. 10 thrusters to be exact in quadrant number 4. That barbell, 125 pounds.
Looks like both of these ladies are eating these. Maybe Denise Tam going just a little bit faster because of her shorter range of motion. Dylan Florentine already on that heavy rope.
Yep, and they're using a different grip. If you notice, you can see the way they're holding a rope, not like your typical jump rope because of the diameter, and there's no bearings in these ropes, so they have to figure out a different way to do it. They've seemed to manage that no problem. And it's going to come down.
Rep for rep.
And out of nowhere, the Wild were trailing those last 2 quadrants. It looks like Denise Tam had a little issue still. Now on your screen, trying to wrap up that last one. And it looks like there's going to be some questioning, maybe.
It looks like RJ Hibbard was already in the finish line before Amanda finished her repetition. So it looks like the Daytona Beach Venom are a little bit upset about that. They're talking to the referees, but the Wild look happy with their win, going back to the start line. Great way for them to start off this match.
There's plenty of time to talk things over. The referees are going to discuss that. Unofficially, the Wild have won that partner forward.
Well, if you remember, the Wild and the Venom have a very deep rivalry going back to last season, that there was a little bit of miscommunication with the rules, and the Venom were not necessarily happy with the way that it ended. And it's just going to be a very cold-blooded battle between them today, is all I'm going to say.
Well, we're going to go over to our mirror and
let's look ahead into what that entails. The mirror here today. So the mirror is a race where the male and the female face each other in a race, and they're carried quadrant to quadrant with a human rack. It's going to be the same amount of reps in every single quadrant. The only thing that's going to change is the player that's completing it.
That's right. And as you mentioned, the players are going to come out. 3 males, 3 females in quadrant number 1. Once the bar comes off the ground, it cannot touch the ground until all reps are completed through quadrant number 4. If for some reason season, either male or females drop the barbell, the entire team must set them down, go back to the start, and then come back to the quadrant to pick up where they left off. Today, for the first time, we are actually going to have a back racked movement, which is a back squat. For the men, the barbell is going to weigh 315 pounds, and for the ladies, 210.
It's going to be absolutely exciting to see what strategies they utilize for this.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, Venom have had a chance to be in the same room and work together. So they, unlike last season, have had an opportunity to practice this. You will also see, once we get onto our grid floor, the barbells from today for Valor. We've got golden barbells and purple heart plates. All can be found at valorfitness.com right here on your screen. And here we go, mirror race. And they are off.
All right, for the Venom, we have Denise Tam here putting on that back rack with the help of Martinez and Frazier. For the males, it's Eddy G completing those back squats with Florentine and Gomez.
That's right, and referees' hands are already in the air.
Looks like the Wild are already transitioning into that second quadrant. It looks like on the bar we have Tom Soroka and Sidney Wilson for the Wild.
Yep, and that's Robbie Rodriguez and Alyssa Martinez on your screen now for the Venom. And as we talked about, back squats, 315 pounds for the men, 210 for the ladies. But it's not even so much the back squats, because all of these players are very strong, but transitioning with the weight on your back, trying to walk sideways, trying to re-rack it to begin in the next quadrant. Very difficult, especially balancing that much weight.
Definitely. It looks like the Atlanta Wild are about 4 to 5 reps ahead of the Daytona Beach Venom. Here we got Frazier and Gomez on the bar, and it looks like Fischer and McKellar on the bar for the third quadrant, and they're already moving into the fourth quadrant with the Venom. 2 reps to go until they can move along.
That's right, and things are slowing it down a little bit for the Venom. These back squats seem to be pinning Frazier just a little bit. She was able to do all 10, but a little bit slower than I'm sure they were hoping for. Now, looks like
a little bit of a tough transition here for the Venom as Denise Tam and Florentine take those last reps. Soroka and Blow dropping the bar at the same time, making their way into the finish line. But it looks like Casey Blow did drop that bar on her foot on the way there.
Yeah, I don't know if she hit herself or if she was just having a little bit of fatigue. I don't know if she dropped it on herself or if she was just, her legs were like Bambi legs at the moment from the squats.
Could be, could be.
But
definitely
we'll see in
an
just a
exciting
moment.
one. Shows just where everybody's at so far for the strength.
Now, we could touch on what happened previously. Okay, that was the end of our mirror. For the partner forward, they were going to rerun the race, but the Venom found that because they're a little shorthanded today on players, that it wouldn't be worth it, and they wanted to just move forward.
Definitely. They had 2 players missing in Jose Perez and Aaron DeJoy. They were unable to come today because they were both sick. So unfortunately, they have a sparse roster that they were not expecting, that they didn't even know about until this morning. So it's a very unfortunate situation, but it looks like they're taking it on the chin and they're just trying to get through this.
That's right. And we'll be back in just a moment. We're going to take a look at our Ringer Point video.
And we are back. We are going to be doing this Ringer Point race. It's going to be that med ball handstand walk from start to finish. Ladies are going to be having a 6-pound med ball through their legs. For the men, it's going to be 10 pounds. For the Venom, it's going to be Angelina Midas versus McKellar from the Wild. Angelina is quoted as saying, "The Wild better be ready for what's coming because I didn't come to play games." And here we go.
And they're off. 80 feet. They have to go. 10 pounds for the men, 6 for the ladies. It looks like there is a slight edge right now. The Wild, maybe 3 or 4 feet separating the 2. And it looks like, oh
no, Angelina's lost that med ball, and McKellar crosses into the finish line, completing this ringer.
Yeah, and the Wild will take the Ringer Point, and I can go ahead and tell you, almost for a fact that the Venom will not receive any points. Now, typically with a ringer point, these are chosen. We have one ringer point for the home team, one for the away team. And what happens is if the Wild, for instance, they finished that ringer point, the Venom must finish within a 20% margin.
That's right, Joe.
All right, so if it took them a minute to get across, then they have to be done within a minute and 20 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever, you know. So
to even receive that 1 point.
That 1 point, right. So it appears the time that she took to get through, they did not. But for now, what we're going to do is take a look at the Echo race that's coming up next, and we'll be right back.
Through the second Echo. Remember, get ready to do it again in the Echo race.
Got a really nice thick waistband.
They definitely passed the squat test and the booty test. They're really comfortable. Like I could wear them out and I could wear them on the floor.
But still feel covered, but able to do all the movements.
Go get yourself some.
Think of it as a spectrum with a 4-foot gymnast on one end and a 400-pound strongman on the other, with every possible size, shape, and skill set focus filling in the middle. Roles on the grid have a lot of crossover from position to position, and there are many possible combinations that will yield a great team. Grid League has 3 primary player positions or roles on the team. Utility players generally have a wide range of abilities and end up with a diverse set of assignments on the grid. Utility players, although often assigned more total work than specialists, will still focus on their best movements as their means to contribute to the team. The strength specialist role often involves heavier assignments and, depending on the player's background, may be even more focused to individual types of strength movement, such as Olympic weightlifting or strongman. Most of the super high-skill movements like backward roll to support in deficit, freestanding handstand push-ups are performed by bodyweight specialists. That said, there are several bodyweight specialists that mainly focus on more basic movements, but for big sets and fast cycle rates. Many are gymnasts as well, but even some of the best do not have gymnastics backgrounds, such as former MVP Paul Lays. Learn more about the sport of Grid League at fgl.com/learn.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. That was our Echo video telling you a little bit about what to expect with the Echo. Echo is presented by Air Force Special Warfare today. You will see some new equipment out on the floor. The Wonder Walls, and these are utilized by the Air Force Special Warfare in training, as well as the sled that you will see out on the grid today. Now, what to expect with the Echo? They have 16 reps of 75-pound sandbag. as it is completed, 45 seconds later, we're going to run things back and do it again.
This is definitely going to be an exciting race to see where everybody's at with their gymnastics. We've seen a lot of strength things happening so far, but we're going into the fun stuff. This match format is called rope swing because there's a lot of ropes involved, as well as a lot of gymnastics, which involves the swing part of it. So it's going to see how the gymnastics stack up against each other on these two teams. It looks like the unofficial score so far is 2 for the Venom, and the Wild are ahead at 6 points.
That's right, and both of these teams have not really had much of an opportunity to check out these wonder walls. They did set them up briefly before the match just to get a once-over, pardon the pun, but now we're going to let the rubber meet the road. Obviously, 75-pound bag is not a big deal for both the men or the women. I think it's just going to be how quickly they can get up and over the wall and get that bag back in their hands. So
definitely, and I think it's worth mentioning that all of these elements in this race are brand new to the United Grid League. These are all the first times that anybody's going to be doing this on the grid. They could have practiced them on their own, maybe not with the exact same equipment that we have here. Maybe they had to make do with some boxes for that wonder wall, but this is all new to them, so it's going to be very exciting how that plays into it as well.
For sure. And we are about 1 minute away from our 4th race. 3rd and 4th race, the Echo.
If we look at the atmosphere right now, it looks like the Venom is looking very hungry for their first race win in this match. They look a little bit frustrated, especially thinking that they were going to come in with a team until this morning that they found out that they were not going to come into. The Wild look like they're happy with it. Looks like they're just ready to go in there and crush it as they've been doing. It's going to be a pack of hungry dogs for this one.
Yeah, the Venom actually had several players that could not make it today, right? Some illnesses and things that came on. The Wild have a few players that were initially listed to start. Blake Kidder being one of them, but was replaced right before the match with Justin Long. So some changes were made for both teams. We'll see how that affects them throughout the rest of their match today.
That's right, Patrick Long replacing Blake Kidder. And we are going to cut to that split screen so we can see those wonder walls brought to us by the U.S. Air Force Special Forces.
20 seconds.
That's right. Air Force Special Warfare is where this training material comes from.
10 seconds. You guys
all right. And here we go. We're about 5 seconds away from our Echo race. First thing we have here, 16, sandbag over the wall, and you must follow either over or under.
All right, as we know, it's 1 male, 1 female on the grid at a time. The Venom just completed their very first rep. That's Savannah for the Venom with Jojo Gomez.
Jojo Gomez throwing that thing 10 feet past the wall. Probably wants to go a little bit easier on that to save them a little bit of time. Obviously, it's a little quicker for the ladies to go underneath.
Yep, that's going to be Amanda Fischer and Patrick Long. They're actually a couple over there on the red side for the Wild. They look like they're just eating these. Joe Gomez looking a little bit frustrated at how this is playing out. Once again, they weren't able to necessarily practice with this equipment, so there's bound to be a few bumps in that road.
Yeah, it looks like they have a nice strategy on the right side of your screen for the Wild. Essentially, ladies got to get the bag over. As soon as they do, all they have to do is touch the bag, and then that allows the men to do their reps. So you can kind of do this however you wish. But in any event, 2 reps remaining for the Wild, 6 reps remaining, now 5 for the Venom. Now, that is Billington. Starting with the first aerial of the day, new element on the grid.
That's Carrie and Tyler Billington. They are married on the grid. Back-to-back couples here for the Wild.
A pair of Billingtons in quadrant number 2 on the right side of your screen. Left side of your screen, Venom trying to figure out how to finish up
that last rep on the sandbag. They're not necessarily communicating correctly on that few flip-ups.
Yep, and
Wild
the aerials
still
are
struggling on those aerials. RJ Hibbard coming out to complete those ring handstands. Angelina Midas absolutely eating these aerials on that second quadrant.
So you'll see here, RJ Hibbert goes to full extension, does a back uprise to get himself into position for that handstand push.
Angelina Midas made up a lot of time for the Venom on those aerials. She completed them much quicker than the Wild did. It looks like Eddy G is going to do those handstands, completing those as fast as possible as RJ Hibbert already finished, and Casey Blow is pushing that sled all the way to that finish line for their male counterpart to pull from the other side.
Yeah, so Casey Blow has to get past the end of quadrant number 3. Then, with static feet, they must, now we're seeing on the right side of the screen, I can see that there was already an issue. Technically speaking, the Wild was supposed to stay in quadrant 1 and pull from there, because now they've got more than 60 feet to cover for their way back. So a little bit of confusion between both teams. On the left side of your screen, Ramirez changing his angle.
We have Tom Soroka now pushing the sled back into that third quadrant, finishing as quickly as possible.
Well, this should be it now. It's going to be a race to the finish. Now, Soroka had to start at the beginning of the grid, and for the Venom, they started in quadrant 2, so he was able to make up a little bit of space there, but there was confusion for the Wild. Somehow they still came out on top here.
This is going to be a very tough rerun for that second Echo, considering how technical the problems were.
Yeah, lots of confusion there about where they needed to be for their static pull. Everything was fine for the foot push, but the goal here is it's a 60-foot push, a 40-foot pull, and then a 60-foot push to the finish. So the idea is to start at before quadrant 1, go through quadrant 3, and then pull back to the beginning of quadrant 2. That will finish your static pull, and then from 2 to 4 is where you would finish up, which is not what the Wild did. Somehow they still, even with the extra 20 feet, came out on top there. Unofficially taking 2 points there, 1 point for the Venom, and we are 15 seconds away from running it back.
That's right, Joe. Thank you so much for that. We're going to run it back. We're going to see how they fix up these technical problems with it, and we're just going to see how it goes here.
Yep, and here we go. We are a few seconds away. They're correcting some equipment on both sides.
Also clarifying some of the rules here.
Yeah, I think they're clearing up that now. I mean, it did not give the Wild an advantage the way that they did their pull. So there should be no reason to be upset on the Venom side. They were still so far behind that even with the Wild making that gigantic mistake, they still weren't able to catch them. So here we are now. We're just a few seconds away. About 5 seconds from our second part of the Echo. And we are off once again. Let's see if the Venom can correct what they had going on with the confusion of getting that bag over and under and tagging it.
That's right. So it looks like they switched out Savannah for Sarah Homestead here. All right, so she's here. She's doing it instead of Savannah. She has a little bit more of an advantage with her height. Once again, grid is not a sport where you have to worry about your height, your weight class, anything like that. So if you have the proportions, you have it. That's what you have to put in for this race.
That's right, and on the left side of your screen, that's Justin Long taking care. So he does essentially 1 toss, and then his counterpart doing 2. I think that seems to be what works for them strategically. And I'm sure there's other grid teams out here watching this happen for their matches later on.
Yep, it looks like Sarah and JoJo have a little bit of better chemistry here, able to make up the reps. It looks like they're a little bit closer than where they started off on that first Echo.
That's right, and the Venom have just a few reps remaining, 5 reps. The Wild are now starting their aerials. Now, we know that the Venom have Angelina Midas. She is very good at gymnastics. She blew through those aerials in the last time, the last half of the Echo. And right now, on the right side of your screen, Billington and Billington, one fault there. Her shoe came off mid-air. And it looks like, let's see what happens here. Okay.
And Angelina eating these aerials. Once again, she's a lot faster. It looks like they are going to be a lot closer than they ended up last time. Hopefully Eddy G can make up some time on these bring to handstands, which he's starting now.
Okay, so RJ Hibbert only has 1 rep remaining. Eddy G, 1 rep remaining for him. So Hibbert's gonna come off the rings. Eddy G, 1 rep remaining, looking good. Given a fault there. Wondering why, but we'll see what happens later on with that one. And now the sled push.
Miscommunication from a judge here on these ring 2 handstands. Unclear about how many reps they had left. Eddy G completing that last rep. Tom Soroka already pulling that sled into the first quadrant, correcting his mistake that he made before.
Yeah, so that's right. And you can see feet are planted, static feet, pulling only with the arms and lats. That is the goal for that 40-foot pull. Denise Tam on the left side of your screen, letting Robbie Rodriguez take over. Wow, the Wild finish up their final 60 feet of the sled push. 1 quadrant remaining. And
it looks like, and the Wild are going to take this one. Alyssa Martinez and JoJo Gomez, another couple here on the grid, doing this sled, trying to finish under that time cap. It looks like the Wild are the undisputed winners of the Echoes.
Yep, unofficially the Wild has taken both back-to-back Echoes. JoJo Gomez taking over this sled as he pushes it through the 3rd quadrant. They have 25 seconds, so there should be plenty of time to get through this last 20 feet. Unofficially, we'll give them 1 extra point. Now, again, we talk about the points we're going to touch on here in a minute. That's JoJo Gomez crossing the finish. It's very important that these teams finish their elements or their race under the time cap, because although they may have lost that race to the Wild back-to-back, they still get 1 point for finishing under the cap, which is going to help in that point differential later on in the season when we start seeding for the playoffs.
That's right, Joe. It's going to be very important how it comes down to, and remember, everything affects the impact score, the score that each individual player gets for completing any given number of elements.
That is right. And we'll be right back. We're going to take a look at what to expect with our ladder race.
Increases as you move down the grid. Teams send out 1 player at a time, alternating male and female, to perform the designated lift for the match format. Each successful lift has a point value that is added to the team's ladder score. The point value is equal to the quadrant the barbell is sitting in. Players are allowed 1 lift attempt per quadrant and may skip any quadrant they choose, but are never allowed to backtrack once a barbell is passed. The team with the highest total point value at the end of the 4-minute time cap wins. This race is one of the most strategic and coach-reliant of all of the races. As a good game plan and in-the-moment decision-making, to manage time is everything. Remember, lift heavier and score higher in the ladder race.
To rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers.
We're the ones who go before all others. Join the fight.
You guys just look at the lineup, your jobs are there, do them and we win. Like we're honestly going to greatly fuck starts and faces. Little cliche, but I'd like to just get a family on 3. Come on, let's go! All right, here we go, we got family on 3.
The games of the Wild take the triad. This is our final race of the evening. Where's my chance spot for the games of the Wild?
Okay, bonus flag is thrown. We are going to get 4 points on this. We are going to have perfect rest. Because you guys are fucking amazing.
Infamous.
Didn't even matter. It comes down to this race.
9-inch ring. The player's going to have to beat.
We're going to blow out the fucking engine all the way through. Okay?
We have good reps. We win every fucking race.
We win this.
Let's go.
Come on.
Right here. Let's go, John. Let's get it. Bring it in. Bring it in. Last time. Don't be a bitch on 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't be a bitch. Stand by.
But I'm also a person who gets really bored with eating the same things. I like that Rebuild has made it a lot easier for me to meal prep because it takes out a bunch of meals that I don't need to now prep. When I'm at work, I can just heat them up really quickly, or if I'm working from home, I can heat them up really quickly. And it just makes the time when I do get home after work or after the gym a lot simpler because I have those meals ready to go. I track most of my macros. You can scan them super easily, put them in MyFitnessPal. It's easy for me then to plan the rest of my meals with the rest of the macros that I have left for the day because it tallies it up super simple for me. Super clean food while also tasting really good. I feel like I'm getting a good healthy amount of protein, carbs, and fat per meal. I like the lifestyle line. It allows me to have a little bit more flavor, a little bit more carbs. I feel good going into training. I'm ready to go. It makes my life super simple and I really like them.
Welcome back. We have just wrapped up the Echo. We have reset the grid, and we are getting ready for our ladder race. Ladder race today, we've got push press, heavy barbells. Now,
heavier and heavier to account for the talent on the grid. You got to make it more competitive. These people are absolutely insanely talented and strong. Everything's just getting harder. It's just a testament to how hard these people work to play in this sport.
that's right, and if you are not familiar or just joining us, this ladder, they have a total of 4 minutes to send one male, one female back and forth through the team through 4 barbells. Now they can choose to skip a barbell and move on to the next. Once they do, they cannot go back. If they fail any particular barbell, they must move on. Or they must, excuse me, completely leave
the grid.
The grid.
Correct.
There's only 4 minutes though, so there's some strategy.
You know, like spend their time going through 1 and 2, all the barbells.
Right, and
it looks like there's a standard that has to happen with the push presses. It can't turn into a thruster. They do have to complete that pause at the top of the clean to make sure that they're static before they complete that push press, to make sure that they're not using too much momentum from that squat to jump for the push press.
That's right. Typically, we've seen other movements or elements where you could go right from one into the other. Today, they must show a full pause, as you mentioned. And I am just getting word from behind the scenes, the Wild used an illegal player during the mirror, so they are actually going to lose those points.
Oh,
so
wow,
that's
going to knock them down a whole entire 2 points. The Wild are still going to be ahead. We're waiting on that official score, but right now it looks like the Venom still have time to catch up.
Yes, still a few, several races remaining. We've got just about a minute before we're going to kick off this ladder.
Yep, it looks like the players are going through with the referees their full range of motion. Sometimes players can't necessarily lock out their elbows all the way. They have a slight bend, and that's just their full range of motion. So you do have to show that to the referee to establish that they are completing the requirements of the movement to make sure that they can move on and do another bar.
Right, and of course making sure it's just fully locked out overhead,
Right.
head through the window, as some say in the sport. So that's the goal for both teams. Now you'll see when we get to our split screen, the barbells that are on the inside of the grid closest to the rig are for the men, and the outside barbells are for the ladies. That way there is no tripping or any misalignment of the team. So
Definitely. This is going to be a fun one to watch, especially because the Venom are known to kind of come back during the ladder. They are very skilled in strength. They do have a different team this year, the Wild as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up against each other, especially with some of the injuries that the people on the Wild have been having.
yeah, and the last time they faced off for the ladder, it was actually the Wild who took it. So let's see if the Venom can change that today. Few seconds away from the ladder. And there we go. On the left side of your screen, Andrew Maddox.
Andrew Maddox is an Olympic weightlifter, so he's very well versed in these movements. And we have McKellar over there for the Wild.
Both gentlemen clearing that barbell of 250 pounds in quadrant 2.
It looks like Andrew Maddox lost that third bar. He's going to go into the finish line, and Alyssa Martinez is going to come out for the Venom.
Okay, so quadrant 4 was McKellar. He failed that. He did hit quadrant 3. And as you mentioned, Maddox, it looked like he winced a little bit, maybe hurt his left wrist on that third quadrant.
Yep, we got Alyssa Martinez on the fourth quadrant. She's going to push press it up, and she's going to make it, making her way into the finish line.
Wow, that was a 200-pound barbell. Now, Dylan Florentine on the left side of your screen, and number 24, Tristan Meredith for the Wild. Both gentlemen very strong, heading into quadrant 3 for that 275-pound barbell.
That's right. That's some very clean movement from Florentine. All right, showing his full range of motion. He's going to get out of there,
Both
sending
gentlemen.
in Denise Tam.
Yeah, both gentlemen able to clear quadrant 3, both exiting at the same time. Sidney Wilson on the right side of your screen, and as you mentioned, Denise Tam for the Venom on your left.
All right, her coach making sure that Wilson completes that full pause at the top of the clean before she hits that push press. The ladder is no sweat for Wilson ever. She is formerly from the Tampa Bay Brigade. Last year was her rookie season, and she's doing absolutely great. Tam is going to finish that fourth barbell as well. It's hard to see who's taking this ladder so far.
Well, and keep in mind, folks, we do have a beta version of our score tracking, so do not take it to heart. It is unofficial currently, but it is trying to keep up with the points for these lifts. Justin Long on your right. Oh, just missing quadrant 4, that 300-pound barbell. Jojo Gomez making that 300-pound barbell looking like it's 135. And on your left, this is
Savannah Redding from the Venom. This is her rookie season. She trains with Sarah Homestead and Alicia Hicks over in Panama City.
And on your right, RJ Hibbard. Now, we expect him to be able to clear this entire grid.
And Whitten is going to finish that fourth quadrant as a rookie. That's very impressive.
Yeah, these are big, big weights for a single push press. Robbie Rodriguez in quadrant 2 should have no issue. RJ Hibbard in quadrant 4 taking his pause, deep breath. Can he lock it out? He is good.
Yep, Robbie Rodriguez electing to take his time a little bit. He's known to kind of rush through these movements. He really wants to make sure that he gets them right. And he's putting them down in front of him just to give him that little extra second.
That's right, and he did stand that up. Now, number 14, that's Amanda Fischer on your right in quadrant number 3, locking out that 100 180-pound barbell.
Both of those players finishing that 4th quadrant.
And once again, somebody that we spoke about earlier, Tom Soroka, formerly with the NPGL New York Rhinos, now with the United Grid League in the Atlanta Wild. Big lifter here in quadrant 3. That barbell, 275 pounds, he has it.
And Tom Soroka is very fun to watch on the grid, considering how hard he's been working on his mobility to complete these cleans from his strongman training, and he's gonna push press that like cake.
And Eddy G on the left side of your screen went for his lift on that 275-pound barbell, but he jerked it just a little and gave up. Now, Casey Blow, quadrant 3, 180 pounds.
Casey Blow actually used to play for the Daytona Beach Venom last season, coming off of the Gainesville Wild in 2022.
Right, and unofficially on your screen, 69 to 66, a very, very close ladder race. We are going to tabulate those scores to get the official score, and we'll be right back. We're gonna tell you a little bit about what to expect with our next ringer.
One male and one female are allowed on the grid at any given time, and only one player can be working at a time. The team can only move on to the next station when the previous station is complete. This race is the simplest when it comes to rules, but the most reliant on player skill and speed, as the hyper specialists often make the difference in the race. Remember, let the bodyweight ninjas fly in the Jack and Jill race.
That something wasn't exactly right. I was just kind of afraid of how soon can I get back, when can I get back, will I even be 100% when I get back. I ended up reaching out to Elite 7 that kind of helped progress me through that recovery.
Elite 7 sports medicine is really different from your typical sports medicine field. There's a continuity of care that just doesn't exist.
The options from Elite 7, I like to use it in 2 words and kind of break it down. It was aggressive and progressive. So it was more aggressive to get you back into where you normally do a bit sooner. In progressive, it gets you progressively back into where you normally were in a safe manner to help you get back to your normal day-to-day activities sooner.
We want you to understand your injury, and we want you to be able to help yourself. You see us in an event, you get injured, we're there to care for you at that event, but then you go home and you're not by yourself.
Very helpful and very different from what you would typically get from your normal PT.
There's a better way to do sports medicine. There's a better way to take care of athletes, and there's a better way for athletes to get better.
I've been using Element basically every day. I love it.
I was, back to working out and wanted to make sure that I stayed hydrated because that's so important for your supply.
It was a game changer for me because all through high school and college, I would always cramp. This generally comes from that mineral imbalance. Having Element T, in my training bag keeps me hydrated. It's phenomenal.
It rejuvenates me in the workout. It's what my body craves and it's what it needs after sweating so much. It's definitely helped me get through really long, tough workouts and just give me the energy that I need in order to keep pushing through.
Up and warm helps me mobilize a little bit easier.
It wasn't just a regular roller, it hit the right spots.
As a bodyweight specialist, I'm always trying to get in there just so I can get better range here. I'm definitely using this as much as possible.
I'm so excited to get to work those into my mobility, my warm-up drills, and that's already going to go right into my gym bag.
I will be using this to get in there so that I can get out there and be all right.
Welcome back. We are live at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida, USA Fit Games. Once again, I'm Joe Roberto, joined by Cassie Martinez. Cassie, we're about halfway through our first match of the day. Venom trailing the Wild, but still a little bit of time for them to cut that gap.
Yep, there's quite a few races left. They just really need to put it together, kind of communicate a little bit more. We do have a lot of rookies on both sides, so it's just a matter of communicating, getting everything right, and navigating these new elements as well as a team.
Absolutely. And coming up next, we have the ringer point. This was chosen by the Venom. They are sending out Alex Alvarez for the Venom and RJ Hibbard. They have 6 triple touch. That is a toe to bar, chest to bar, into bar muscle up. And this is going to be quick, so don't you move. And off they go. Little half step there by RJ Hibbard, but he was able to stay behind the line.
Alex Alvarez on the bar first. We're going to see who's going to complete that first. Both with 4 reps remaining.
Both are very efficient gymnasts, so it's going to come down to a sprint.
Alex Alvarez just milliseconds ahead of RJ Hibbard here. It's going to come down to that run, and Alex Alvarez is going to take this ringer point.
That's right, and RJ Hibbard was just a second or 2 behind. So, that being said, the Wild will still receive a point to keep that gap a little wider, but the Venom adding 2 to their score, closing the gap a little bit.
That's right. RJ Hibbard's definitely going to get a point for that because he finished, once again, within 20% of the Venom. So as long as he finished that, you get that 1 point. But good for the Venom, good for team morale, getting back up there. Once again, there's still time for them to pull through.
Yeah, and I think if you look back at that, you'll see RJ Hibbard had a little half step before they said go.
Right.
And then he paused for the go. At that point, Alex Alvarez was already gone, and that was about the 1 second that kept those 2 apart.
Yeah, RJ Hibbard kind of did that 1 step, and then Alvarez was like, oh, do I go 2? And they both kind of had that pause, but it looks like Alvarez was able to recover a little bit quicker. Once again, very skilled gymnast, very fast on that, and it looks like we're looking ahead to that Jack and Jill race. Let's see what's to come.
That's presented by Rumble Roller.
Jack and Jill features 3 stations of high-level bodyweight-based elements that increase in the grid. 1 male and 1 female are allowed on the grid at any given time, and only 1 player can be working at a time. The team can only move on to the next station when the previous station is complete. This race is the simplest when it comes to rules, but the most reliant on player skill and speed, as the hyper-specialists often make the difference in the race. Remember, let the bodyweight ninjas fly in the Jack and Jill race.
Excited. This is going to be fun. I like stuff like this. Being able to coach and get people into it and have them have their first good experience, it's going to be a good time.
Nervous, excited, never done this.
Really nervous, but it's going to be fun. Wish me luck.
Kill it.
1, 2, 3, Junior!
That was the spark we needed. It's electric in the air, baby.
Now we can do the mini grid.
Was amazing. The race was so funny.
All comes down to this, Mike. Let's go.
I think we're gonna be all right. And once we win this one, we win the whole thing.
No, back away. That's
Ship over here.
Fuck you! Pretty much gonna do the whole thing, and then I'm gonna run across and win.
What'd you do? Come on. What happened? I'm just kidding, but I love you.
6 a.m. 6 a.m. Forever the best. Teammates. She beat me. Champ.
All right, welcome back. We are running Jack and Jill, presented by Rumble Roller. We are about 10 seconds away from seeing these teams take on the grid. Back to our split screen. First thing to kick off our Jack and Jill L-sit chin-ups. And they're off. Alex Alvarez
and Alicia Hicks for the Daytona Beach Venom, and it looks like Vilma Rosario and RJ Hibbard for the Wild.
That's right, so you can see they have to keep the L-sit standard, have to keep the feet above the hips, fully extend down into that pull-up, and then of course pull your chin above. 5 reps remaining, separating these two teams right now. Daytona and Venom knocking them out very quickly. Venom now, that is full wood on the handstand, L-sit to handstand. So essentially they start in an L-sit, then they must rotate into that handstand hold, showing full extension of everything with the feet, hips over top.
That's right, we got Angelina Midas here on your left with Dylan Fullwood, and we have Tyler Billington here for the Wild.
Yeah, and Billington essentially going right back into each rep. He covered that gap and has now pulled them ahead. About 3 reps separating these two teams. Wild leading the Venom on their second movement of this Jack and Jill.
Looks like Fullwood and Midas having a little bit of trouble, opting to switch turns every single time, just to not get flustered and complete reps that are no good.
That's right, and 1 rep remaining for Billington on the right side of your screen. And it's good. The only thing separating them from the finish is 5 L-sit med ball rope climbs. That's Billington on the right side of your screen, climbing for his first climb. Up for his first climb.
It looks like there are 5 reps remaining here for the Daytona Beach Venom. A little bit of a confusion about who they're going to send in to replace, whether it be a male or a female, because as we know, it can only be one or another at a time.
That's right, and you can see there are just 3 reps remaining for the Wild. Getting those L-sets up to the top. She's got to get to that blue tape mark on your screen. That was good. 2 reps remaining. Still leaving a little bit of time.
Yana Babbitt fixing that rope for Tristan Meredith so that he can have a smooth transition up to the top of that rope.
Yep.
They're sending out Alicia Hicks to try out these L-sit handstands to see if she can get them. Hopefully complete them by the standard.
Yeah, and it's a very skilled movement. And in addition to having to balance, you have to figure out how to create that momentum to get yourself aligned for the rep to count. Now, the referee on the right side of your screen, we have 1 minute and 15 seconds left. Neither team has finished. 1 rep remaining for the Wild. And it looks like RJ Hibbard is pretty confident that he can finish things up. Alex Alvarez,
Alicia Hicks and Alex Alvarez trying to complete these reps. Referees keeping the standard to make sure that we're the fairness in sport, and the Wild are going to take this Jack and Jill.
Yeah, and still 50 seconds remaining, 3 reps remaining on their L-sit, the handstand. I don't know that it's going to be worth it to continue, because they still have those 5 med ball rope climbs and the L-sit, which at this point, I don't believe they'll have enough time. 35 seconds, yeah, 35 seconds to go.
35 seconds remaining. It looks like Coach Paul Bear is telling him it's not worth completing. They're gonna make their way back to the start line, looking very dejected for the outcome of this race.
Yeah, the Wild have come out pretty strong. Venom showing signs of life in some of the races. They actually came out pretty strong for this particular race for the L-sit chin-ups.
That's right.
But then unfortunately unraveled a little bit for the L-sit to handstand.
The gymnasts on the Wild are also a little bit more seasoned. It looks like almost every single person that they sent out onto the grid for this Jack and Jill was a rookie besides Angelina Midas. So it is hard to navigate these new elements, this new sport, under these time caps. It can be very nerve-wracking as well.
Yes, absolutely. And we are actually going to be moving on to our female triad. Take a look at this video, give you a little bit of background on what to expect.
Elements, each with 3 stations that must be completed individually. 3 players can be on the grid at any given time. All players can perform at any station and in any order. But all of the designated reps must be performed at each station. All 3 stations of each element must be complete before the team can move on to the next element. The triad is all about player conditioning and managing fatigue across the team. The best strategy ensures players have enough left in the tank for the last element and has backup plans for when things inevitably go wrong. Remember, try to catch your breath in the triad race.
Once I found out that I tore Achilles, I had a mix of emotion. I went to go stand and I couldn't stand and then I fell back down. I was just kind of afraid of how soon can I get back, when can I get back, will I even be 100% when I get back. I ended up reaching out to Elite 7 that kind of helped progress me through that recovery.
Elite 7 sports medicine is really different from your typical sports medicine field. There's a continuity of care that just doesn't exist.
The options from Elite 7, I like to use it in 2 words and kind of break it down. It was aggressive and progressive. So it was more aggressive to get you back into where you normally do a bit sooner. In progressive, it gets you progressively back into where you normally were in a safe manner to help you get back to your normal day-to-day activities sooner.
We want you to understand your injury and we want you to be able to help yourself. You see us in an event, you get injured, we're there to care for you at that event, but then you go home and you're not by yourself.
Very helpful and very different from what you would typically get from your normal PT.
There's a better way to do sports medicine. There's a better way to take care of athletes. And there's a better way for athletes to get better.
And we are back, party people, as my friend Joe likes to say. We are looking into the female triad. We're about 2.5 minutes out here, and we're just going to see how the ladies stack up against each other. Venom versus Wild.
That's right. Triad was just explained to you in our last video. There'll be 3 ladies out on the grid at a time. Today, it's a little bit different. You're going to see everybody is wearing a weight vest. So weight vests for the males and the females. And then they're going to essentially chip away through each of the elements, starting with a 20-foot rope sled drag. All right. 225 pounds for the men. Right now for the ladies, 135 pounds, excuse me. Then 20 heavy jump ropes. Once again, same rope that was used before, 1.5 inch diameter for the ladies. Then they will move on to a thing that we are doing for the first time, a synchronized movement. 12 synchronized burpee box jumps, 20 inches for the ladies. And then 4 rope climbs up to 12 feet for the ladies, and then wrapping things up with a farmer carry, 115 pounds in each hand.
Once again, this is only 3 ladies on the grid at a time. They would have to tag in and out of the start line if they want to switch to another female player. Now, what's going to be really hard is completing all these movements that we have seen before using a vest. It's going to slow them down. It's going to cause them more fatigue. And if you've watched grid before, you know that this is a very taxing race.
Well, and the other thing is, you can tag in and tag out anybody that you want, but they got to be wearing the vest. So
that as well.
Right now, you have everybody suited up to go out there. What we also haven't explained is if for some reason we have 3 ladies out there and one cannot complete the element that they are on, another one who is out on the grid can step in, finish up to help them move on to the next element.
That's right. The reps need to be completed in any given station, not necessarily by any given player.
Correct, correct. All right, so we're about 20 seconds away from our female triad.
Referees ready, layer, ready, stand by.
It looks like we got Amanda Fischer, Sidney Wilson, and Yana Babbitt out here for those sled drag pulls. Wild are making their way into the 3rd quadrant. Venom, Sarah Homestead, Savannah Witten, and Alicia Hicks. They all train together in Panama City CrossFit. All right, so they're very well versed in how to train together and complete these as quickly and efficiently as possible. I'm sure they've been practicing these transitions.
Yeah, those ropes are heavy, and it's even harder when you're weighed down. Now, taking a look at the way we set up the boxes for these synchronized burpee box jumps. They must be on the ground at the same time. They must touch the box on top at the same time. So as you can see, looking very synchronized, looking good, both teams.
Yeah, it could be a hard one. If somebody's getting fatigue, if somebody loses their footing and the other players are already on the boxes, it could lose them time, it could lose them energy. It's a tough one for sure.
And there's 12 repetitions there. Hands are up for both referees. Teams are about 1 rep apart from each other.
It looks like the Venom have a very slight lead here.
That's right. 1 rep remaining for the Venom. Now 1 rep for the Wild. Venom heading back to their next movement. This is 4 rope climbs up to 12 feet. Again, with these weight vests, adding a level of difficulty.
It looks like Angelina Midas is going to be joining the Venom, and Vilma Rosario for the Wild joining in as well.
That's right, and hands are up. Now, after these rope climbs, it'll be a farmer carry. We'll be able to see a little bit better of where each team is, and they are taking those farmer's carries the entire distance, 80 feet across the grid.
Yep, it looks like Rosario's gonna switch out for Billington, and they're just finishing up the last few reps. 2 reps remain for the Venom on that 2nd rope. 1 rep remaining from Midas, which she's gonna complete right now before they can get to that farmer carry.
That's right, Venom on your screen right now. Wild all done with their rope climbs in synchrony, if that's a word. They are off. The Wild finishing up their farmer carry.
It looks like Martinez is going to go through the front finish line first for the Venom. Then it's going to be followed by Savannah.
That's right, and here's what this is what we were talking about. Yeah, they can exchange at any point as long as there's just 3 ladies out or men out on the grid at a time for that. The Wild embracing now that they have taken yet another race and putting a much bigger gap between them and the Venom.
Definitely looking like people are trying to make up ground, trying to catch up to the Wild. Definitely hungry, definitely still giving it their all, not giving up, staying in the game.
Yep, and what we have not seen yet is a bonus flag from either team. Now, it's probably not worth it for the Wild with the gap that they have. They'll probably keep theirs in their pocket for the remaining portion of this match. You might see the Venom pull theirs out at whatever they might think is their strong suit, whether it be the male triad or the sprint relay, to try to make up this gap a little bit, at least for those points for later on in the season. Right now, unofficially, Wild leading the Venom 15-8. And we're going to be back in just a minute. We're going to touch on the male triad.
Their there to supplement my life. It's very, very beneficial for me. You're getting like the liver, the pancreas, spleen. It makes me feel the best, especially with everything, health-wise, what I've gone through. Heart and Soil has really been a game changer. It's boosting my immune system, it's changing my life, and supplementing my future.
I love Element Salt a lot.
Hardcore Element user.
Element's been awesome.
Element.
I've been using Element basically every day. I love it.
I was, back to working out and wanted to make sure that I stayed hydrated because that's so important for your supply.
It was a game changer for me because all through high school and college, I would always cramp. This generally comes from that mineral imbalance. Having Element T, in my training bag keeps me hydrated. It's phenomenal.
It rejuvenates me in the workout. It's what my body craves and it's what it needs after sweating so much. It's definitely helped me get through really long, tough workouts and just give me the energy that I need in order to keep pushing through.
I'm almost always on a foam roller. That's the first thing I do when I start training. I was just on the Rumble roller, rolling out those opened up and warm helps me mobilize a little bit easier.
It wasn't just a regular roller, it hit the right spots.
As a bodyweight specialist, I'm always trying to get in there just so I can get better range here. I'm definitely using this as much as possible.
I'm so excited to get to work those into my mobility, my warm-up drills, and that's already going to go right into my gym bag.
I will be using this to get in there so that I can get out there and be all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. On your screen, you're watching the gentlemen warm up for the male triad. For the triad, for the men, you can expect everything you just saw with the ladies as far as elements and standards. The only thing changing, of course, few of the reps and the weights of these elements. Taking a look here.
Going to be 20 feet at 225.
Right. And these teams are just locking in their plates. We're about 90 seconds away. As we were talking about before we came back live, the Wild leading pretty handily, 15-8 over the Venom.
That's right.
We haven't seen the bonus flag tossed. It's probably not going to happen with the Wild, but possibly with the Venom to help close the gap, because there is that point differential that they're going to need to worry about when it comes to the end of the season and getting into the playoffs.
That's right, and they would definitely need it, especially because of the lead that the Wild have on them. At this point, there's no way to make up those points from the Venom to take this win unless the Wild get absolutely no points or something is rerun. But it looks like at this point, they're just racing to close that gap differential just a little bit more.
Yeah, even with back-to-back wins and the Wild not crossing any finish line, it would still be a loss of 1 point unofficially. So, in any event, we're about a minute away. Referees making sure that all of our farmers carry barbells are all weighing the same. Sled drag is the same. Once again, let's talk about that. You said 225 pounds on the pull now. For these sled pulls, they don't have to have the static feet like they did in the earlier race today.
In the echo.
Yeah, during the echo. So they can kind of move around a little bit. That helps give them that momentum to move the sled. Heavy jump ropes. pretty self-explanatory. There's no bearings, but it seems like all these teams had plenty of time to practice, so they know how to handle them, because it seems like both teams are handling them pretty efficiently, minus, you know, maybe the speed of the rope. But other than that, everybody's about the same there. And the synchronized burpee box jumps, something I was watching. If you're following any of these teams on Instagram, you can see what they've been up to in the off season. I saw several teams practicing these.
That's right. Both of these teams have had the opportunity to practice together for this specific race format. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this shakes up male on the Venom from male to the Wild.
That's right. Okay, so we're going to go to our split screen. Right now we're looking at the Wild. We've got on the left now, Venom. There's our split screen. For the Venom, Jojo Gomez. We got Fullwood and Eddy G. On the right, RJ Hibbert, Tom Soroka, and Justin Long.
Patrick Long.
Excuse me, Patrick Long. And there we go. Teams are off. Sleds are flying. This is the quickest part of the race for sure. All they got to do is get those sleds past the line. And now the Wild already started on their jump rope. The Venom not too far behind.
Yep, it looks like both of these teams are getting through these pretty easily, just getting through these reps. Looking forward to those burpee box jump overs, synchronized. Fullwood already on the ground, rest of the Venom following behind, and they are going to complete that rep at both of them at the exact same time.
Yeah,
it's almost as if these teams are synchronized with each other.
That's it, and look at the Wild. Looking like a well-oiled machine. Venom looking pretty good now, too. They got a little off for a moment there, but you're not wrong. They both look like two well-oiled machines. Both teams definitely practice this movement plenty.
Oh, yeah, they're looking good over here. It looks like both of them have about 3 reps left.
And the Wild leading by just about 1 rep on this element. From here, they're going to move on to those rope climbs. 4 rope climbs to a 15-foot. That's all the way to the top of the rig.
It looks like all of these gentlemen are joining to the rope, taking a second to collect themselves before doing it. They are going to make it all the way up to that 15-foot, hitting the top of that metal post before coming back down.
And that's good there. Robbie Rodriguez having a little trouble as he was getting to the top, looking a little bit winded there. Patrick Long reaching long to get up there in his least amount of pulls as possible. And let's see, we've got referees' hands in the air. Wild still leading by just a few reps. 1 rep remaining in one of those ropes. That's it. Wild are done. They're on to the farmer's carries. 175 pounds in each of their hands.
Tom Soroka, RJ Hibbert, and Meredith already making their way over to the finish line. It looks like they are going to take this male triad.
That's right. Tristan Meredith right there in the center, trailing behind Hibbert and Soroka. Now, on your screen, Jojo Gomez, Fullwood, and Robbie Rodriguez hustling along with 175 pounds, easily under that cap. They will get the 1 point for finishing. Looking very tired, though. Again, these movements already tough. Adding that 20-pound vest, I can't imagine.
And it's definitely hard to do with the vest, especially since this is a new element in a new race. So the fact that they finished it is impressive. You do want to close that point differential, but the fact that they really can't come back from this, they don't look too upset. They're just trying to do what they can to make sure they don't lose by too many points, just finish under that time cap. And they're doing what they have to do here.
That's right, and it's still very early in the season. You know, we've got matches August, September, October, November, as we'll head into the playoffs.
And though the Atlanta Wild have such a lead, they look absolutely ravenous. They're ready to tear apart the Venom. They were not joking in all their off-season videos and jokes that they've made online that they are not a team to play with this season.
Yep, absolutely. Showing that here in this first match today. Now we've got the sprint relay coming up. for the sprint relay. Take a look at this video, and then we will go over the details of what you're going to expect.
One player allowed on the grid at a time and 8 elements to perform. Any player can perform on any element, and substitutions can happen at any time, except when a player performs the last rep of an element. In that case, the player must run back to the start line, perform a 4-point touch behind the start line, and sprint through to the finish line, permanently leaving the race. The next player may enter once the previous one has crossed the finish line. The only exception is the distance element that ends at the finish line with no sprint back required. The catch is, 4 men and 4 women must finish the 8 elements. The sprint relay is a great balance of strategy to decide which players in what order are the best combination, along with clean and well-executed elements by the players, to lead to the best race outcome for the team. Remember, 4 men and 4 women must finish the 8 elements in the sprint relay.
Do you have a nickname?
Rhino?
Rhino.
Rhino. I used to be a lot bigger than I am.
Tell me, where did Rhino come from?
You want the real story or the fake story?
I want...
Okay, so here's the in-between story. I'm big as a rhino and I can move weight. That's kind of like the gist of it. The true story is really kind of stupid, because there was a guy at my gym named Melendez, and he drove a Mustang, so they would call him Mustang Melendez because he'd always drive up in his like newest Mustang or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, Mustang Melendez, that's badass. But then I was like, what's my nickname? And then they were like, Rhino Robbie, and I was like, all right, cool. So then I changed my Instagram, and I've been Rhino Robbie ever since. So that's the true story. It's boring. So growing up in Arizona, I graduated high school and I immediately moved out on my own. I went to a community college for a little bit. I've always wanted to be a registered nurse, so I was doing my, easy classes, I guess, English, writing, all those, get those out of the way at a community college. And then when I was ready, I applied to nursing schools, and one of the schools I applied to was NSU, and they accepted me. So in 2011, I made the drive over from Arizona to Florida, and I pretty much stayed here ever since. One thing that's cool about FGL is that they have designated specialists. So it's not like CrossFit where you have to do everything all at once and it's all on you. You're pretty much with a team, and you have strength specialists, gymnastics specialists, and you have the utility players that can kind of do everything. In between, you have the utility players getting you to those specialty movements. And what's awesome about Grid League is the strategy behind it is that you have to put in your players, and you can only use a certain number of players, and you also have to consider the gender of players. So you have the females versus the males, and then you have to swap them out. That's really the most interesting aspect of it, is that the strategy that goes in behind it, which, a lot of audiences probably don't notice it, but the coaches are very strategic in this manner of who to play, when to play them. And halfway through the match, you need to sub out a player because, they're smoked and you need somebody fresh. And you're allowed one of those, and that's pretty cool too. So I think that's also one of the most interesting things, is that it's so dynamic that you can get lost in it, but when you're watching it, it's really entertaining and exciting.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are just finishing setting up the grid for our last race of the match, of our first match of our season opener, a sprint relay. Here's what you can expect for today's sprint relay. Only one player can be out on the grid at a time. They can start an element and they can leave that element early and tag somebody else in. But if they finish that element, they must head back to the start, 4 points of contact on the ground, and sprint to the finish. You'll notice that teams have different strategies depending on what kind of elements are in the sprint relay.
That's right. Some teams will elect to let one player do most of the repetitions, but tag out and have somebody else finish that last one to run across the finish line, so that one player can complete another element that maybe nobody else on the team can do. Because once again, this is a race where people can shine in their specialties. So if you're the best at doing the clusters, you're doing the clusters. If you're the best at doing the aerials, you're going to do the aerials. You definitely don't want to play around here and send somebody out in somewhere where they're not comfortable.
Right, so for instance, we'll use an example here. Let's say that the Wild send out Tom Soroka for the first set of clusters. There's 10 clusters at 115 pounds, but he's a strong guy. So what they would likely do is have him stay out there for only 9 of the reps. He tags in somebody else, they do that 10th rep, they finish up for that element. Then he is still able and available to be used for maybe those 330-pound deadlifts at the end of the relay. So different approaches. That's just something that I came up with, but certainly not what we're going to probably see here for the Wild.
Definitely, and definitely something to mention as well. It's a race that's worth 3 points instead of 2.
Right.
So you can get that 1 participation point, and if you win, you get the 3 points instead of the 2. And nobody has yet to throw that bonus flag, so that's still on the table. If the Venom want to throw it just to close that point differential just a little bit, if they think they can win that sprint relay, otherwise they don't really want to throw it to give the Wild the extra points. Because once again, this match is basically over. The Wild are pretty much going to take the win for this match, but in the playoff season, the differential is going to come into play, so you don't want to lose by too much.
Right, so to add on to what Cassie's saying, right now unofficially it is 17-9, so there's a separation of 8 points. The Venom could throw their bonus flag and that's exactly what they're doing. Coach is jumping up and down. He's going to throw his bonus flag, so now instead of this race being worth 3 points, it will be worth 4. Let's just say that, for instance, the Venom win this race and the Wild do not finish at all, then 4 points would go to the Venom, 0 to the Wild, which would then make it only 13-7 and only a difference of 4 points. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's right. I'm sorry. It looks like the Venom is going to throw their bonus flag. Coach Baird jumping up in the air, as you said. And Coach Dan and Coach Bear are hugging it out on the grid right now. I don't know if we can show that, but it's very awesome to see just like the sportsmanship and the camaraderie between these two teams, even though they had bad blood and it didn't necessarily end the way everybody wanted it to last season. It's very cool to see just how much grit is a community and how we come together at the end of a competition. Let the best man win.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing but true sportsmanship between these teams. Lots of relationships. The Wild, the Venom have all lost a lot of their players. Some have picked up from other teams, as we were talking about earlier in this match.
And there's something to be said about the level of competitiveness. Last season, we saw the Wild and the Venom go against each other. They were neck and neck. It came down to the sprint relay for that tiebreaker. But it looks like the Wild have fixed up their issues, their technical problems that they had, and they're able to come out stronger this season. So there's a lot to be said about the coaching, the staffing, you know, like signing players that need to be put in. So it's a really cool testament to Coach Dan Jackson's leadership here.
For sure. And yeah, the Venom have a lot of rookies on their team. The Wild have a lot of new players that are not rookies. So that's showing a little bit also. In any event, we are 10 seconds away from our final race, the sprint relay. The Atlanta Wild on your right, Daytona Venom on your left. And they are off. Robbie Rodriguez for the Venom.
And that's going to be Nick Gonnett for the Atlanta Wild. This is our first time seeing him here on the grid today.
Yep, and both gentlemen going touch and go. These are squat clean thrusters, so a cluster, 10 reps at 115 pounds. We'll see if they finish them all together or if they're going to tag out. And both teams have thrown their bonus flag, so I think that was part of the hug. This adds 1 extra point, so either the Wild are going to have a tremendous lead after the sprint relay, or the Daytona Venom will only have lost today by a couple of points.
So far, these teams are neck and neck, with both ladies, Alyssa Martinez and Sidney Wilson, going to the finish line at the same time. We have Angelina Midas completing those aerials for the Venom.
And Billington for the Wild. Billington now 4 points of contact on the right side of your screen. He's probably 4 or 5 seconds behind Midas, who has already finished up. But both teams on the sled push. Tom Soroka on the left side of your screen, and on your right.
That's going to be Savannah Redding.
Redding. Separated by maybe 10 feet.
Yeah, it looks like Redding started first, but Tom Soroka once again very well versed, very looking forward to the sled drag, finish first. They do not have to come back for that 4-point touch, and it looks like Patrick Long is already over that wall on his first rep.
That's right, that wall 6 foot 1 inches, brought to you by the U.S. Air Force Special Warfare. It's something they use for training, newly introduced to the grid today.
Look at Fullwood just absolutely bouncing back up from those reps. He may have started after, but he is making up ground. Patrick Long going into the finish line. And Fullwood going into the finish line.
And R.J. Hibbard now on his ring to handstand. 2 reps is all he needs. He is good.
Eddy G joining him from the Venom to complete his 2 reps for those ring to handstands. He had trouble earlier, but it looks like he is getting his stride on these.
Yep, and the hardest part he's having is not the muscle up, it's just getting into that full extension, getting his legs over his upper body in that inverse handstand. Now, there was a fault for Eddy G. He is headed back shoeless, sprinting to the finish with 1 shoe on the right side of your screen.
That is Yana Babbitt for the Wild, already a few deep into these muscle ups, joined by Alvarez, who we saw earlier completing these like nothing. Let's see if he can make up some ground here.
Yeah, Alex Alvarez, very, very good at gymnastics. He pretty much knocked those out without issue. Now, on the right side of your screen, that is number 50, Lexi Wolfert. She is doing those double kettlebell ground to overhead, 35 pounds apiece in each hand.
And she's going to be joined by Rachel Frazier from the Venom, taking a little bit of a different approach, grabbing the kettlebell from the side instead of at the top to minimize that swing, the amount of time it takes to get up. That is absolutely genius, if you ask me.
That shows a tremendous amount of grip strength as well, to grab the kettlebell by the horn and not need to rotate it in your hand.
Absolutely. It looks like she's going to drop those kettlebells. She's going to make her way into the finish line. We got Fischer on those deadlifts.
And check out that barbell from Valor Fitness, gold barbell and Purple Heart plates. She is done with those deadlifts, rocking it out, hand in the air. The Atlanta Wild celebrating their sprint relay victory, unofficially taking 5 points there. And JoJo Gomez finishing up, jumping over that barbell. Both teams displaying a ton of heart today. And